Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the other side, there could be a quid pro quo when you're trying to collect data where you're like, okay, I'll give you a sample of something if you give me a sample of something, and that sample then is modified to be the Kronos malware. But I don't know. I mean, the fact that he was on Twitter in 2014 when that malware was most active saying, does anybody have a sample of this, is odd. I guess, you know, the clever criminal goes and does that to deflect suspicion, but
you never know.
Well, you know, and it could just be something that, you know, I guess, yeah, because they're saying that he created it. So why would he be asking for a sample for it?
Right. Unless he was on purpose, like, I don't have this thing I created, of course.
He's a security researcher. Wouldn't it be odd for him not to ask for it?
Right, exactly. Although, I mean, he could not be researching that particular. Not everybody researches every particular kind of malware. So
it's true, but I mean, it's a high-profile one, so
you don't see him asking for every single Trojan that's ever been created.
Yeah, but not every single Trojan created makes the front page.
I don't. Did Kronos really make? I guess it kind of did.
It kind of did when it hit. I mean, the act was more of the front page, and
yeah.
You know. Listen, I my mind is completely open. I'll see what happens.
Exactly.
I don't know this guy. I want to take odds on it. Where's a bookie in Vegas?
Don't forget, in the United States, you're guilty until proven innocent in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, we shifted over to Napoleonic law. It's amazing.
All right. Anything else breaking? So Roger, if you can keep an eye on that, if there's any.
So do you want me to drop additional?
Yeah, if anything significant pops up, yeah, here, I'll just, is that you doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I'm just highlighting this.
So, yeah, you could just pop it in one of those cells below. I don't actually expect anything terribly significant to happen at this point. They've filed the indictment, and I kind of feel like that's it. They're not going to let him make a statement. They're probably not going to make any statements themselves. The indictment will be their statement.
Cybersecurity hero who stopped WannaCry arrested in Las Vegas.
That's not a loaded headline.
Ah, it's from the Bitcoinist.
Why are you even looking at that?
No, I'm looking at the, like on Google, you hit news and then I select recency for any updates for the past hour.
Gotcha. Yeah, the problem with that is then you get all of these ancillary blogs who are covering it a little later than everybody else, and it looks like, oh, here's a recent. Oh no, that's just someone.
You mean the cybersecurity hero who stopped WannaCry attack arrested?
Stop saying it. Stop repeating it.
But the Bitcoinist says it's the Bitcoinist.
We need a selection of related stories below that to provide an alternative perspective on the story. Right? Hey, man, I was just trying to have a little fun, play a little Murloc deck, and you came with your burn deck and just crushed me.
To be fair, I played that deck against Teasdale when we were in LA twice, and he has just started getting back into Hearthstone, and he beat me twice with a Shaman deck.
But that Murloc deck I played is not designed to win, so I didn't even feel bad, but still.
Whatever you got to tell yourself, Tom.
No, man, I'm telling you the truth.
I'm just reading the review for Dark Tower on The Verge, which is an odd place to look for movie reviews.
Yeah, I read that one earlier too, actually. It says it tries to do too much. All right, you guys ready?
Yup.
Let's let this thing fly. Here we go. The Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, August 3rd, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me, Justin Robert Young. Thank you again, sir, for filling in last week. Awesome show and awesome Daily Tech headlines as well.
Tom, it was an honor and a pleasure to take part of being the captain of the SS Daily Tech. So I will do it anytime that you call.
Did you make Roger salute you when you came onto the bridge?
No, I was too busy frantically asking Roger last minute questions and for passwords and all that. Roger was an amazing help as always.
Well, excellent. I'm glad to hear it. I'm not surprised. And let's start off with a few tech things you should know. Google announced a change to its Play Store. It will now rank apps higher if they perform better. Google's always a little cagey about this sort of stuff because they don't want people to know too much and be able to game it. But performance indicators include things like the number of reported crashes, number of uninstalls, the effect the app has on battery life, and the updated algorithm is rolling out over the next week worldwide.
You know, my first thought to this is A, is this more common with other app stores? And B, why wasn't something like this done earlier?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they had lots of signals that would help them rise and fall, but they were generally based on user reports, and those are slower. And sometimes apps just get so popular that the user reports of issues get swamped away. So this is a way to counter that. So it's not that they didn't do anything along these lines before. This is just a better, quicker, more accurate way to do it.
I do want to note for all listeners and viewers, if you hear the bird sounds that might be a little loud.
We went to great expense to provide a relaxing, natural environment.
So I have my birds here in the studio because we have harmful toxic chemicals in the other room due to some home renovation. So apologies if that's bothersome. If not, then enjoy the sounds. Meanwhile, Symantec has agreed to sell its web certificate business to DigiCert for $950 million and 30% stake in DigiCert. Chrome and Mozilla have both begun the process to distrust of Symantec-issued TLS certificates under its old infrastructure. DigiCert says holders of Symantec certificates will move to the new platform that meets all industry standards and browser requirements.
BioCow said in the Twitch chat when we were prepping for this show earlier that they bought DigiCert bought Verizon's certificates and cleaned them up a while back. So apparently this is the right company to do that. Facebook will begin adding fact-checked related articles below links to stories it has a high degree of confidence may be false. The feature is rolling out in Germany, France, the Netherlands, and the U.S. first. Related articles are chosen by algorithm. Facebook also said its machine learning algorithm has improved its accuracy and speed and is sending more stories to fact-checking agencies for review. But they make a big deal here, Justin, about saying we don't want to be the arbiters of truth. We just want to provide people avenues to evaluate what they're seeing.
So to me, there are two elements to this story. Number one, that they are deciding that they do not want to go with a elimination solution. They do not want to just bork links or take them away because they feel that that will continue to proliferate them as people make this a Facebook versus cause kind of situation. And they don't want to have a scarlet letter issue, which is something that I agreed with was probably a bad idea and ultimately opens up a hashtag portal to hell, hashtag hell portal, when you are now all of a sudden certifying, USDA choice truth versus the other way around. This solution is very, very interesting. They want to take it out of human hands and make it an algorithmic choice. Yet they want to shape the narrative by saying, if this is more controversial, you now get the following recommended stories that might, on some level, and they even make a point in this in the coverage here to say that will break you out of your little echo chamber, that maybe you're going to get the other side of the story that you would not otherwise have shared by your friends with like-minded opinions, which is interesting to the point that I almost wish they had done this for other stories before and have it not necessarily tied to the controversial, politicized fake news versus real news kind of debate.
Yeah, the best solutions to me are often the solutions that I would have wanted them to do anyway, whether they were solving a particular problem or not, something that just makes the general experience better. And that's what this is. I mean, Facebook has had related stories for a long time. That part isn't new, but the way they're choosing them is to say, hey, instead of just saying what's a story that also is out there about the same thing, and then giving me 6 of the same viewpoint, where it's like, okay, I'll just read the top story. I don't need these others, right?
Twitter.
What's that?
Sorry, I was just loudly coughing Twitter, so as to let everybody know that exactly what Twitter does, which is totally useless.
And so what this does is say, hey, here's a perspective, here's an opinion even. So it's not wrong, but here are some other opinions, here are some other perspectives on this. And where there is a fact check on whatever's being reported, you get that too. It may not even contradict the main story you were about to link to. It may bolster it, but it's just giving you more information, and more information is better. Granted, everything's got bias and nothing's going to work perfectly, but you either say, well, forget it, it's not worth solving, or you come up with something like this, which says, well, this may not solve it, but at least it helps people have the tools they need to understand their world better.
Now, the other side of it is that maybe the algorithm doesn't do much, and ultimately it either feeds exactly what we are deriding, which is the exact same story over and over and over again, or overweights it to the point where you are just trying to you just wind up starting fights because your entire platform is filled with screenshots of, why would Facebook give me this when I posted this?
Yeah. Well, and P Squared says, put in a highly biased article from both sides of an issue solves little. If that's what it ends up being, you're right. That wouldn't solve anything. But that's not what they're describing. And I hope the way they implement it is the way they describe it, which is to say, we're going to give you different angles on it. It's not both sides of an issue. It's like, hey, here's an opinion article. Here's an article that has the facts from a respected fact-checking agency. Here's an article with a different angle on the same story that's not an opinion. It's give you a wide range of ways to dig into a story. And if the article is entirely false, those other articles will show you like, oh yeah, no, this is clearly not a true article, that it's parody or it's blatantly lying.
Yeah, I mean, although I do think that really their best move would have been initially, when this conversation was about fake clickbait articles of, patriotzone.usa, Hillary Clinton dead. It would,
right. Just like
shoots her, like they should have went after that wholesale and just said, no, we are about eliminating these links because they are not only incorrect, but they are really just there to either farm your clicks and, even worse, probably distribute malware, which is not good for our user base.
And they do go after that. If it's distributing malware or harmful, they clamp those down. Where they're trying to walk the line is where it's fuzzy to say, okay, we all agree that story is a lie. But what about this one? What about this one that's a little less of a lie? Where do we draw the line? This says, let's not draw a line. Let's provide a system that lets you figure out whether it's over the line or not. And I think that's a more elegant way of approaching it.
You know what they say, Tom? The road to the hashtag help portal to hell is paved with good intentions. Facebook Stories, meanwhile, which is a copy of Instagram Stories, which in and of itself is a copy of Snapchat, is coming to the Facebook desktop website. Stories will show up on the right side of the page rather than on top as it does on mobile. Facebook told TechCrunch that it still considers Stories on desktop to be a test.
Yeah, Tech Press gets very excited with the Stories versus Snapchat narrative. I wonder how excited individuals get about this. So there is a breathless amount of reporting about Facebook trying to make Stories work. And does anyone even use Facebook Stories? They put grayed out versions of your friends up sometime because so many few people are using Facebook Stories, and putting it on the desktop is obviously committed to it. And I don't know that it matters. It's another feature on Facebook, and if people use it, great. And if they don't, they don't. I don't know that it affects my life. I don't even know that this particular thing is going to impact Snapchat.
No, if anything, according to some stories today, Snapchat's affecting itself, considering the fact that they haven't given enough analytics to advertisers, and influencers on Snapchat are migrating to other platforms. So I think ultimately what happens with this idea, although pioneered by Snapchat, might live more effectively on Instagram and on Facebook. So whether or not this is going to be something that lives as a desktop solution, who knows? Facebook's great about adding stuff and then taking it out if nobody uses it. So who knows?
The desktop side is saying, well, maybe we'll get more people to consume it. I mean, you're not going to create stories from your laptop, but maybe we'll get more people viewing it and then talking about how they viewed it, and that'll encourage people to create it.
I mean,
Asus, oh yeah.
Wait, one more thing on this. Maybe this is, in a world of where vlogging content has become more exciting than really it ever has been with Snapchat and Instagram and stuff like that. Just the idea of show a selfie, talk about what you're doing. Maybe the idea of something slightly more put together through your laptop or desktop that you can now distribute for free through your Facebook page is an exciting idea. Maybe that is a way people will use it.
All right, we got the second of the Project Tango phones out. Asus Zenfone AR now available for pre-order on Verizon. $648, unlocked version out there. Phone supports both Google's Project Tango augmented reality platform and Daydream VR. The Zenfone AR comes with a 5.5-inch AMOLED display, Snapdragon 821 processor, 6 gigabytes of RAM, and 128 gigabytes of storage. Project Tango phone there, Justin Robert Young.
Yeah, this is a beast of a phone, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here, and Project Tango specifically in terms of whether or not it can kind of take enough of the market.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's cool that it's Daydream and Project Tango. That might get people to pick up the phone for the Daydream part, or even because they're Asus Zenfone fans. They exist. And then mess around with Project Tango and discover some things they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. The Lenovo is the other phone that has this on here, and it's a lesser known Lenovo brand. So the Asus Zenfone, I think, is a better brand for Project Tango to be on.
Uber Freight launched in May and matches independent truckers with shipping companies. But Uber is expanding freight to new U.S. territories and route lengths, but is adding new driver features as well. The system will learn drivers' preferences based on past loads, location, and home base, and push notifications when jobs come up to meet those preferences, as well as list them in a For You section.
I love that this is Uber Freight, not Uber Fraught. We're not talking about the CEO search. We're not talking about the Waymo lawsuit. In fact, we're not even talking about Uber trying to automate cars and eliminate jobs. We're talking about Uber trying to help drivers get more jobs, at least for the time being. And Uber Freight before was sort of just a job board. It wasn't that much different than other services that already exist to help drivers get jobs. You just had to search through and find one you're interested in. This way, it's putting a little more of that Uber sauce on it, so that you will get push jobs like, oh, this is the kind of job you seem to like taking, and we'll make it easier for you to find those kinds of jobs.
Yeah, and Uber does have a lot of data like that. I know now for drivers, they have a setting where you can just say, hey, only take me home. So now just find me routes that are going at least in my direction, so I don't have to do a big round trip. This is similar to that. Just find the people, the best route, how you can best maximize it. And Uber as a logistics company is a very, very interesting proposition.
And I would be interested to hear, I know we've got some truck drivers out there in the audience that listen to us, especially if you're using this or you've tried it, or if you try this new feature, let us know what you think. Is it actually useful? Is it actually helpful? Be interested to know. All right. Big news happened just a couple hours ago as we're recording this show. The FBI arrested Marcus Hutchins, a.k.a. Malware Tech, at the Las Vegas airport. He was returning to the UK after being in town for DEF CON and Black Hat. If you don't recognize the name, Marcus Hutchins, a.k.a. Malware Tech, is the guy who turned off the WannaCry ransomware. He's the one who figured out the kill switch and was able to stop it from spreading. This has nothing to do with that, though. A federal indictment filed by the U.S. FBI accuses Hutchins and a redacted co-defendant of creating and distributing the Kronos banking Trojan. This is the banking Trojan that hit back in 2014. Hutchins was briefly booked in the Henderson, Nevada detention facility, but friends report he's now located at the FBI Las Vegas field office. There's no confirmation of where he actually is, though. The indictment lists Kronos as being listed and sold on the recently seized Alpha Bay dark web market. However, Hutchins is charged only with creating and updating Kronos. There's little explanation of why he's believed to be responsible. There's a lot more about his redacted co-defendant, who is also charged with selling it, listing it, and profiting from it off of Alphabay. So it's pretty clear that they have data from the Alphabay seizure that pointed to this co-defendant whose name is redacted and Hutchins, and that's why they're listed in this indictment. Verge points out that Hutchins' Twitter activity back in 2014 indicated he was researching Kronos. In fact, there's a tweet where he plainly says, "Hey, anybody have a sample of Kronos?" Now, you could argue that that is exactly what a clever criminal would do to deflect suspicion. But yeah, he wrote, "Anyone got a Kronos sample?" because he's a security researcher, and that's what security researchers do. So, I mean, Justin, in the pre-show, we were batting around all kinds of scenarios of what this could be about because, hey, the guy who stopped WannaCry, you don't want to believe was the guy who created Kronos. That doesn't make sense. But stranger things have happened.
Certainly so. One thing that I do not know, and maybe you can answer because I think you've read a few more of these stories than I have, is what do we know of the co-defendant, and specifically, is the co-defendant in custody?
We don't know anything about the co-defendant. His or her name is redacted throughout the entire indictment. The only things we know about that co-defendant are what that co-defendant is accused of, which is the creation and updating of the malware along with Hutchins, and then the counts that are specific only to the unnamed co-defendant or the redacted co-defendant, which have to do with listing and sales and selling the malware for $3,000 a pop, stuff like that.
So that's really, to me, the biggest question in terms of how to figure out what's going on in terms of malware tech's culpability is whether or not if the co-defendant is also in custody and has, basically turned the finger toward malware tech, then this is a different story than if they are just
or that if it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, or if they have malware tech in custody now and they're saying, hey, look, these are accounts against you, and we can drop them if you let us know where to get this person. Either way, this is, I'll tell you what. Welcome to the new face of criminal justice in the world at large. This is something that hit in 2014. The people that are involved in it, there's not a lot of them. I mean, they were all at DEF CON. You could probably all fit them into the whatever hotel suite where Dual Core was performing this weekend, and it's a fascinating world because you're right. There is the likelihood based on past behavior, it would seem to the outside observer, is he's a researcher and he maybe got too close to it and maybe he crossed some lines, but it doesn't seem like he's the one pushing this stuff, and yet he's sitting in the Las Vegas field office, having not being allowed to board his flight back home.
There's some interesting parts of this. It's a grand jury indictment. It was filed on July 11th, 2017. So they definitely waited for him to come into the country, attend DEF CON, and finish attending DEF CON, and waited to the last moment when he was at the airport. The last tweet he posted was about 24 hours ago. And that's what tipped a lot of friends off, was that he's very constantly on Twitter, gets on the Wi-Fi on the plane and tweets if the plane has Wi-Fi. And so the fact that he stopped communicating raised some alarm bells. There was some confusion about where he was booked and where he was and all of that. But they filed this grand jury indictment on July 11th. They redacted the name of the co-defendant, which could mean they don't know who it is. It could say, John Doe here, and they redact it because they don't want you to know that they don't know. And they also redacted the name of the foreperson of the grand jury, which I think is interesting. That may be standard procedure in certain cases like this, but there is a lot we don't know. The most we know is about the redacted co-defendant who used the name and advertised the ability on the Alphabay market. They've got evidence. They uncovered stuff in Alphabay that says this co-defendant did this, and this. All they say about Hutchins is he created the malware and helped update it.
Yeah.
And that could be wrong. That could be right. That could be unintentional. He may have provided code to someone as a security researcher that he was using as an informant, that then that that person went and turned into the Kronos malware. And that subtlety might not be reflected in this indictment. But whatever they have was enough to convince a grand jury.
Yeah, to the tune of 6 counts. I'm sure we'll be following this as it continues to develop.
Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. It's available on the Amazon Echo, on the Anchor app, and now on Google Home. Just say the Google Home trigger word that I won't say so I don't trigger your Google Home, and the phrase, "Let me hear news from Daily Tech Headlines," and that'll show up on your Google Home. Real quickly, this week's Patreon column for the associate producers is about travel tech safety. Very timely considering today's news. And one of the things I mentioned in the column isn't about borders or anything like that, although that is in there. One of the things I mentioned is about USB chargers. When you're at the airport, you always see those charging ports that they have a couple of regular outlets and then they'll have the USB thing. I never use those. They're too easy to tamper with. I stick to electrical outlets, but if you want the added option to use those outlets risk-free, there's something called a charge-only USB cable. It doesn't deliver any data and still charges you up. So that's a lot safer as long as you don't get mixed up and use the wrong cable. Or you can make your own. You can go to Instructables.com and learn how to make any USB cable into charge-only. You basically, with some finesse, cover the middle 2 contacts on a USB connection, not a USB-C, the older connection. Those are the 2 contacts that carry data. Put some tape over them. Again, as long as your tape doesn't come undone or something, it'll stop the data from going through. That won't work with everything, though. Apple has some chicanery it does that makes the tape thing not work. And it will foil quick charging and things like that, which you might want in an airport situation. But anyway, something to be aware of if you want to use those USB ports. We'll have links in the show notes to the Instructables on how to do that and more travel data safety tip for the patrons over at patreon.com. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Justin, I just deputized several members of the audience to approve people on our Facebook group. So if you've gone there and been like, it doesn't seem very big, it's because my lazy ass wasn't getting over there often enough to approve the group members. So that should move a lot faster now.
Absolutely. No, a great place to congregate and talk about tech news when you are on the Facebook.
All right. Thanks to Bill Burlingame in Huntsville, Alabama, who got the Android Plex update this morning and has a report. He says, I use Plex Pass as a DVR. I set up the DVR functions on my Windows 10 desktop, and I can watch the recorded videos at a remote location on my phone. One problem is Plex doesn't include DRM'd channels. I can play those channels on my HD Home Run Prime app. Silicon Dust offers a DVR subscription service, but they also exclude DRM channels from being recorded. They said they're working on making that available. I can record DRM channels with Windows Media Center on my Windows 7 home theater PC, but they can only be viewed on the system where they're recorded. Anyway, it's still not a perfect system that suits me yet.
You know, I always love these emails of just everybody putting everything together and trying to make it work. It shows you even now, as we have more and more options, how much things are still growing and building and trying to become stable enough that they can kind of make their way into the mainstream.
We also got an email from Adam in Greenville, South Carolina, who said, I'm about a week behind on episodes, but I related so much to Roger's comments about the actual audience for broadcast esports that I was compelled to write in. Roger talked about that with Jen on Friday's show. Adam says, I'm 32 with 2 small kids, ages 2 and 4, and have been a nerd my entire life. I'm an avid PC gamer, watch various games on Twitch daily. However, I'm simply not great at most games. I enjoy watching Dota 2 and will watch the hell out of the International over the next 2 weeks, but I'm embarrassingly bad at actually playing the game. I'll tune into Street Fighter or CSGO tournaments to check out new characters or teams, but I do not actually own either game. I'm not a traditional sports fan. I can tolerate the odd Super Bowl party, and I will join my wife when she watches a highly anticipated playoff game, but I don't enjoy most sports. Jen commented about the rise in production value for large esports leagues, and I believe that is one of the keys to growth. It's no longer 3 dudes casting from their basement with an awful green screen. It's world-class tournament organizers with elaborate sets selling out arenas. The broadcast teams and talent pools continue to get better and better and are largely indistinguishable from what you find on TV. My wife laughs when she sees me hunched over the iPad getting pumped that my team just pulled off a sick play and is rushing the enemy base, when that is no different than how the average sports fan approaches watching their favorite game. It's all about perspective. This turned out to be a much longer email than I expected, but I love the show.
That's fantastic. You know, I had a chance to do a big workshop at Twitch last week and talk to a lot of talent for the people who staff those esports tournaments and events, and how much goes into it. It is an exploding marketplace. In fact, the reason why I was there at that workshop was because Twitch has an active interest in trying to put more and more people into the pipeline, because there are more and more opportunities to cast these games and host events that are around it. So the esports phenomenon is obviously something that is burgeoning, and I say you should not feel any shame. There is literally no shame in being an avid esports fan in a world where everything is a niche. And for everybody who's a huge fan and believes that the NFL here in America is life, well, go to France and talk about how, see how many people are really, really interested in talking about Tom Brady's excellence. Everything's a niche if you look at it from a global perspective, and esports happens to have just a more even distribution as opposed to it being regional like most physical sports are.
Yeah, if I'm talking to you about Neymar trying to leave for Paris Saint-Germain and La Liga stopping him, you probably don't know what I mean unless you're following football in Spain or France, right? I mean, or maybe Europe in general, but still, yeah. It's all, I mean,
really, really screwed up the El Clasico in Miami. So,
hey, John Schieffer was asking about how to serve ISOs off of a Plex server, and we got a bunch of great emails that I have forwarded along to him. I'm going to read two of them here. Byron uses MB at emby.media, which does support ISO files and is what he's been using for a couple of years for DVD and Blu-ray disc rips to stream locally to his NVIDIA Shield TV and remotely for mobile and Shield TV boxes. I'm currently using the Windows version, but I've also installed the Synology NAS version for my parents' NVIDIA Shield TV setup. It does also support live TV via hardware tuners. Plex says they have no plans, and that's not the direction they're going. Alan says the Plex server doesn't handle ISOs as far as I know. If John's only worried about fidelity and not so much about menus and such, Make MKV puts Blu-ray and DVD content into MKV containers without recompressing, and Plex server will stream them without transcoding. There's probably software out there that will also rewrap the MKV contents into MP4s without transcoding, in which case Plex would send the file intact. It may do this for MKV files in the PS4 Plex app, since PS4 supports MKV files. Of course, this all involves work. I recently started trying out the free version of the Plex server just within my home network as a replacement for the Universal Media server, which has been acting up lately. I actually like the media player on the PS3 more than the one on the PS4, so I may also just use that with the Plex server as a DLNA server, since its UI, while not as nice, is much faster than using a Plex app.
I mean, Godspeed, sir. Both Byron and Alan, man, they are totally killing it. I really, 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 again, I love these little recipes. I hope everybody follows them.
And then our boss Chip from Humid Boston says, I was just listening to your commentary about the rumors of delays to the new iPhone on Wednesday's show. First off, thank you for not reporting rumor as fact, as so many other news outlets do. It is greatly appreciated. And I just wanted to throw an optimistic theory out there on this subject. Last week, a friend forwarded me an article about Apple scrambling, quote unquote, to get the new iPhone ready. I was gearing up to give him a lecture on rumor versus facts when I realized something. If it is in fact true that Apple is scrambling on the next phone, I think that could be a good thing. In the last month, I've read a lot of articles about the launch of the original iPhone. Several people involved in the process said they were working down to the wire, revising hardware, tweaking software, trying to get everything to work correctly. They were scrambling. And look what they came up with, a groundbreaking product. A lot of people may see a company scrambling as a bad thing. I see it as them pushing the limits of what they can do in order to make an amazing product. I don't think it's controversial to say that the last few iPhones have been fairly iterative. I doubt anyone was scrambling to get them ready. So the fact that Apple is putting so much work into a supposed Anniversary 8 edition, whatever phone, to me, means it could be another groundbreaking device. Or maybe that's just my wishful thinking.
Well, I do think that no matter what, the difference between this phone, whatever it is, and wherever it is along in its development cycle, and what happened with the first iPhone are just kind of, at this point, apples and oranges. The initial iPhone, as has been kind of detailed quite a bit now that kind of the statute of limitations is up on it, that demo that we got was something that was a smoke and mirrors, effectively. It was a demonstration of what they hoped to be able to do, but was, with the engineers were in the front row, apparently taking shots each time that they got through something that had crashed a million times during practice runs. For what they're doing now, scrambling would mean something quite different, because it probably does not mean scrambling to get hardware working, and probably more means scrambling to get parts and manufacturing done at a time that will allow them to launch this phone, which will undoubtedly be a gigantic seller if it has a radical redesign from what we've seen before, out in the hands of as many people as possible. Apple is not selling to the same market that they were with the original iPhone 10 years ago. They are selling to the world. The fact that they are capitulating to China is because they want to sell all these phones to Chinese citizens. They want to continue to grow that market. So are they scrambling? Who knows? I mean, that's a really, really, really big wheel to keep turning. And there's a lot of ways that it can go wrong or it can be challenged. And now they have to scramble to change what they are doing to make sure it comes out. But is it a good or a bad thing? I don't know. Narratively, it seems I buy that narrative that, yeah, no, you want to push it as far as you can. But
well, and one of the rumors has been about hardware. It's been about the fingerprint sensor being under the glass. So maybe they are scrambling to make that work. I guess what I do like about the email that we got here from Chip is that it's like, hey, you know what? We don't know. We don't know if any of this is good or bad until a product is actually announced. This is why, unless it's like a really reliable leak, I don't like to talk about all this stuff, because we don't know. We don't know if it's actually going to be a good or bad thing. Why don't we let them tell us, right? It'd be like if it was your birthday and you're like getting really upset about that birthday present because it's not in the size box that you thought it was going to be in.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you wait and open the present before you get mad?
Rumors are a radical new birthday box for birthday boy, right?
Yeah. All right, real quickly, one last email from Brian. I was talking about alternatives for over-the-air cord cutter options, and I mentioned Simple TV, forgetting that Simple TV is shutting down. And Brian wrote in and said, yeah, they're shutting down August 5th. So he's like, I've got a Simple TV after August 5th because the service runs through their servers. It's a brick. So that's another thing to be watchful for. Something like HD Home Run is a little bit of a safer bet. Channel Master, a little bit of a safer bet, because you don't rely on the external cloud service to make it work, especially when you're talking about these younger startup companies. Well, thank you, Justin Robert Young, for joining us as always. What do you got going on these days?
Well, of course, you can back. Wait a minute.
Oh, you can. It's over. You backed. You won. You did it.
It's over. No more Action News plugs, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to thank everybody that backed our game. It is greatly appreciated. We raised $58,000, over 1,200 backers. That is a tremendous and titanic amount of support. I thank each and every one of you from the DTNS family for supporting what we're doing. If you didn't get it, sorry, the Kickstarter rewards are definitely out the door, but you can pre-order just the game itself at actionnewsgame.com. And that's the last time you'll hear me talk about it, for a while at least.
Hey, I want to remind folks that the podcast that I co-host with author Rob Reed is now up and available for you to subscribe to for free on Boing Boing. Go to boingboing.net. We'll have a link to the show notes as well. It's an 8-episode series touching on the reality behind subjects from Rob's novel After On. It includes episodes on augmented reality, synthetic biology, internet privacy. I mean, Rob's book, I've mentioned this before, is like a novel based on DTNS, Tech News Today, and Buzz Out Loud. It's like he took the show notes for all of the shows I've ever done and created a novel based on them, because it's on the actual things that have happened in Silicon Valley and may happen soon. If you think you like DTNS, you're going to like After On. So go try the podcast out. It's super interesting, really good interviews with people, and a nice little section where Rob and I connect what happens in the story to the real life events. Thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get for it at patreon.com/DTNS. We literally could not do it without you. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Sarah Lane. Talk to you then. Oh, Lynn Peralta will be here too, illustrating. Don't forget that.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Sarah Lane.
Sarah Lane in the house tomorrow.
Oh, that's good.
I know. She's not at Pluto anymore. She's got some indie gigs going on, so she's got a little more flexible schedule. It's going to be good to have her back.
Heard she's working on a podcast.
She's doing a podcast. That's one of the things she's doing. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to slide in her DMs just ask what's going on.
Excuse me.
I'm just saying. I've been sliding up, and I'll tell you what. I've become emboldened because yesterday I was just sliding up in everybody's DMs trying to shuck and jive for the last day of the card game. It was just me. I was just like Tom Cruise into everybody's DMs. So now I don't know. I got used to it. Now I'm just really excited to slide up in everybody's DMs, say what's up.
Slide on in. So Roger, we can't hear you. Don't know why.
It's the switch on the mic.
Oh, it's because
I
you
always
turned
forget
the
about the
mic
switch
off.
on the mic. I turn it off because just so I don't actually accidentally belch into the mic during the show.
All right, what should we call this amazing
By the
show?
way, Tom, fake news on your show. I know you have a high regard for accuracy, but breaking now, Neymar has indeed signed with PSG. So
They went through. Okay, so it wasn't fake news. I was saying La Liga wasn't going to allow him to buy out his contract.
Yeah.
That was the last I had heard this morning. So how did he get around it?
I don't know. I'm just seeing on ESPN right now. Breaking news: PSG confirms the signing of Barcelona's Neymar.
Ooh, this could be a fight.
It's a fight.
It's a fight.
Forget it, Jake. It's Facebook town.
Didn't we have that yesterday for a different topic?
No, you made that reference to me about.
Oh,
something
I
we were
said
talking
it to
about
you after in the post show. That's right.
privately. All right, cool Facebook story, bro. Road to hashtag Hell Portal. Hashtag Portal to Hell is paved with good intentions. I think we did that one a while back when we talked about Facebook.
Something like that, yeah.
The news.
That's too long. Too long.
Yeah.
Dear Facebook, I never thought that this would happen to me. It takes Zenfone to tango. Get it? Takes two to tango. Takes Zenfone to tango. Look, want to cry. Pay no attention to the Trojan behind the curtain. Captain of the SS Daily Tech, not Uber fraught, Uber freight. Hutchins doesn't want to cry over Kronos. That's actually pretty good. Research makes Hutchins want to cry after DEF CON.
Mm-hmm.
Explosion of eSports. This is our best scramble yet. Facebook shall not post fake news. Facebook fact. Check fights fake news. Oh, fact check. Facebook fact check fights fake news. I think it needs a comma there. Putting on that Uber sauce. Wait, Hutchins creates God of War, arrested for it. Oh, I get it from God of War, the game, Kronos. He's the titular, or not titular character. He's the character you play. Well, those eponymous, maybe. Practice safe charging. All these iPhones belong to us.
What do you think, Jerry?
Man, I kind of don't want to go with something super punny for the guy arrested by the FBI.
I know. It's kind of a sucky day if you're Matt Hutchins.
So, but I think that's definitely the biggest story. Other than that, it's just kind of a lot of A lot of Facebook puns, which are always good.
I never thought this would happen to me.
Of all of them, I think cool Facebook story, bro, is probably my favorite and most succinct. Although it takes Zenfone to tango is also funny, but I think that's more of a tertiary.
I mean, we could just go. For today, we could just go with, WannaCry savior arrested, or ransomware savior arrested.
Yeah. Just go with an actual headline.
Yeah.
What?
All right.
Do it just to keep things, keep things interested.
Keep it a little simple.
Savior. Just,
Savior.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going with this.
Got it.
In the chat room. No more details came out, huh?
Not that I saw. Maybe I'm just looking at the wrong headlines. I'm just looking under for Hutchins and Kronos. Unless there was something about like breaking news, Hutchins breaks out of custody on foot. Something like that.
Yeah. There might be further statements once the trial starts, but I wouldn't expect anything before that.
I'm sure there'll be something later today. But that's probably just from whatever lawyer. He gets a lawyer, I think.
The West Virginia governor is going to switch parties at a rally tonight.
He is expected to announce that later today.
Oh, wow. Who's he switching to? Republican?
Democrat, and he's going to become a Republican, apparently.
Although, apparently, he has registered in his life as Republican, Democrat, and Independent, and he ran as a conservative Democrat and declined to endorse Hillary Clinton. So it's not exactly a huge ideological.
He's a poster child for we need another party. He does not find a comfortable category, it doesn't seem like.
No.
Tell you, one of the whoever it is that runs the Richard M. Nixon site or the Twitter account is very, very entertaining to follow.
Oh, Mr. Justice, a billionaire coal and real estate magnate.
What makes someone a magnet?
A magnate? I heard it as magnate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, magnate, but I just say magnet.
Well, in West Virginia, we say magnet.
Ah. You're in old West Virginia.
I don't know. Wild West Virginia, home of the naive.
Oh, that's right, because there's Senator Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, but
who lives in a very small house. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's odd.
Manchin.
He was one of them. You would have thought, and you would still think would be somebody that Donald Trump. If there was a Democrat that Donald Trump could woo, it would be Joe Manchin.
And Senator Hutt lives in a huge house. What's that about?
Also, by the way, are you ready for
mayhem?
The California governor's race?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm not.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's sad. We actually, and I've had differing opinions on this over the years, but I've lived in California from the Gray Davis days on. We have had very competent governors through most of my tenure here.
This is our summer vacation.
Oh, what's going on there?
Sacramento Bee is going on. They're autoplay ads.
Okay. You've got some internet crunchiness too, suddenly.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, just started happening right then.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Tom.
Yes, sir.
I'm very, very happy that you are back and ready to roll. Hey, by the way, I haven't taken a look at the standings lately. I saw the Pirates were surging for a little bit. What is the what is
It's Cubs, Brewers, Cardinals right now. It was when I looked yesterday. And the Dodgers have the best record in baseball.
Yeah, they are whipping butt, right?
Yeah.
And they just picked up Darvish.
Yep. Eileen has been reminded me of their record lately. She's been getting a little, now that we've lived in LA and it's safe for her to come out as a Dodger fan again. And they have the best record in baseball. All of those things are combining.
Man, I'll tell you what. NL Central certainly committed to fairly consistent mediocrity.
Hey, but they have the reigning World Series champions, and what everyone agrees will be the champions again this year already.
Does that still work? Where you can just curse the Cubs fans by overpraising them, or did
Apparently not. Apparently not at all.
Did that break
it did
last
not
year?
work last year? But it's better than being mean. Me being mean ain't gonna work.
Holy crap!
If you don't count the the Nationals, the Dodgers, or the Diamondbacks, the Cubs have the best record in the NL.
Yeah, tell you, I'm looking at the run differential here. Yeah, the Pirates are frauds.
That's the way I feel about the Cardinals right now too.
Yeah, the Cardinals are not much better than frauds.
They do not have a steady hand on the tiller right now. No
meanwhile,
disrespect to Mike Matheny, but it's just
holy crap. Yeah, the Dodgers, the Astros, and the Yankees, to a slightly lesser extent, are just destroying like the all plus 100 run differential.
Oh wow. Yankees aren't even in first.
No, they're one game back on the Red Sox.
Yeah. Because Houston and LA have the best records in their respective leagues. That makes sense. They would have that run differential.
Yeah, and Dodgers have a plus 184 run differential.
Wow.
Just murdering it. And that division is just not even a thing. So much for those odd year championships, San Francisco.
Yeah. Veronica forbid me to talk to her about baseball.
Oh, really?
Well, especially because last weekend the Giants played the Cardinals.
Tell you what, though, might need some pretty cheap tickets. I should look into it. I was
right?
down to the park.
I was a season ticket holder one of their worst years before the resurgence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And yeah, and the A's.
So I used to take lunch at CNET when there were day games, and just walk down and just see a couple innings because I couldn't get rid of the tickets.
The A's suck a butt too.
Yeah. They seem to have broken out of the pattern of sucking in May and then resurging in August.
Yeah, no. Well, considering what they shipped Sonny to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Man, that one fateful play-in game a couple of years ago against the Royals, man. That was their chance. They took.
Well, I feel it's partly our fault. We don't live in Oakland, and we're not Oakland's A's season ticket holders, which we were for many years in a row when they were, going to the ALCS and all that. And it's pretty much us. That's what happened. Sorry.
Yeah. Now that everybody else is gone, as an Oakland resident, just build a nice park down by the docks, just around where like Jack London Square is. Like
maybe Jerry Brown will come back and be mayor now that he's
second time
governor. Yeah, and he'll figure out the A's.
Something tells me he would not be putting his best foot forward with. Although then again, the problem with any kind of getting through anything through the government in Oakland is that the rest of the government is such a crap show, and they have a police force that is alternately acting reprehensibly when they are not all resigning because they're, organizing some underage prostitute sharing. But that being said, it's a lovely town, and it is I very much adore every inch of my adopted.
Well, when Jerry Brown was the mayor when I moved there, and for most of the time that I lived there, and he did a fine job there too.
You think he's just going to be like? Is this like his Benjamin Button thing, where he's just going to go back and do every job he did on the way?
So yeah, so he's been governor again. Now he'll be mayor. Whatever. I don't know what else he's done. Run for president again, I guess. I don't know.
Tell you what, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with Sarah Lane and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.